Welcome back to the Higher Ground Project. This is the podcast for job seekers, career pros, and really anybody trying to find solid ground in this unpredictable job market. I am David Peterson.
And I'm Doug Kimball. And if job hunting feels like a full time job with overtime, no pay, no benefits, you're in the right place, unfortunately.
So each week we bring on a guest who's in the thick of it, navigating job loss, the job search, and the very real emotions that come with it. We spotlight their experience, their wisdom, and what it really takes to keep showing up.
And we're proudly sponsored by Think Strategic Alliances, and they're a partner for growth partner brands who believe in fractional marketing firepower. They've been a big support for us so far. And they also feature our guests like Stephanie on their portfolio page. So we really appreciate their support for shining a light on top tier talent like we have here.
And today's guest is somebody we're very excited about. She's turning frustration into community, chaos into clarity, and her job search into a master class on resilience. We can't wait to get her story. Please welcome Stephanie Wandell to the Higher Ground Project. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Round of applause. So Stephanie is a senior marketing manager with a broad background, marketing ops, field strategy, and storytelling, one of my favorite things, all very much rooted in SaaS and technology. And she's known for making sense out of mess and momentum out of noise, which I love that phrase.
And she's also the creator of the wonderful Caffeine and Careers podcast. We'll give you a little bit more information about that at the end of the podcast. Now, this podcast is a grassroots support network for job seekers that's as real, honest, and occasionally hilarious as she is. She's here today not just to vent, but to validate the shared reality that we're all living through right now in this crazy job market.
So, Stephanie, welcome to the Higher Ground Project.
Thank you.
All right. So let's kick off with Clear the Pipes. Now, Stephanie, what has been the hardest part of your job journey so far?
Wow. Okay. I would really say it's the illusion of progress. So it's, going through a bunch of different rounds, doing the projects, having conversations, really getting into the thick of it with hiring managers and recruiters and internal people and talent and what have you. Build an entire portfolio or a go-to-market strategy, and then you don't hear anything for 3 weeks or ever. So it's not just the rejection, but it's also kind of this momentum, right? You're like, okay, we're doing it. And then you hear nothing, or, it feels like you kind of have this progress and this thing going on, but then when it comes to it, it's just really, it's difficult, right? So I would really say the illusion of progress, and then I'd also say really just trying to get through it. I think it's like the climb is just not fun anymore, right?
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. You use the term emotional whiplash when we talked to the first kind of screening, and I think that's it. I mean, we sit there, we keep mashing that button for the update. Is my email going to come in? It's an exhausting process. You're doing all the work with no closure.
Yeah. Totally.
And Stephanie, you made a great point during our pre-call, adjacent to this idea about exhaustion from this job search, which I certainly have experienced firsthand. With that exhaustion, we really need our community around us to start supporting us in a way that helps us maybe defeat this exhaustion or work through it and not add to it. So I would just love to hear from you if you have any sort of feedback on what kind of messaging from people, whether it's people who are close to you or people in your network, some messaging that works and maybe some that doesn't for you.
Yeah, I would say, I had written a LinkedIn post maybe last week or something that said like there's a lot of this like well-meaned advice, like why don't you ... from folks who aren't kind of in the job search, and how sometimes it's like gotta bite my tongue a little bit because it's there's a lot kind of going on with that where people are well-meaning, however, we've tried it all, especially if we've been doing this for 6 months or 8 months or a year or 2 years or whatever, and kind of having those conversations. I think people just really need a space and a community to say like, this sucks, and just give them that space to say that. Also, it's not just kind of a complaint session. We talk about ways to update your resume, how to leverage AI, networking tips and tricks and things like that, things to look out for, red flags, green flags, all the above. So I would say, a lot of it has been, how can we get people who aren't doing this whole job hunting thing, how can we get them to kind of understand, or how to be supportive, right? One thing I kind of put out to the world was referrals. We love referrals. Like, just be a referrer. That's super helpful to people versus, kind of the hollow advice, well intentioned, but hollow advice of go network. And you're like, okay, yeah, maybe.
Right.
And I can speak from firsthand experience being in this job search. Joining a community is so important. This job search can be very siloed. So joining a community like Caffeine and Careers can really help put like a turbo engine on your job search, and not just
Yeah.
that, but your mental health.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it too. I think it can be a very lonely process, right? It's like kind of you're kind of in the grind, looking and looking and looking, and then you kind of have all this emotional piece with it as well, where if jobs aren't happening and it's like, why me? Why me? This job search is not that. It's like so many different factors are impacting why people aren't finding jobs or aren't landing jobs, I should say. And then I think the folks that do have jobs, I think they're kind of scared. They're like, maybe I shouldn't be referring. Maybe I shouldn't be interacting with, these things on LinkedIn about how terrible the job market is. So I think they have their cards close to their chest as well. And I don't blame them. So I think there's just so many different pieces to what it looks like. And, even the fact that we're all doing this because we're not working, like, what's going on with the job market? Like, it's just this is amazing, but it's a very strange kind of thing. But it's also very cool because I think it also goes to show how many people are smart or interesting and want to, be a part of something. So I think that part is uplifting, and we will land something. It's just when and what. So I don't know. It should be interesting.
It's an exhausting process, and I think what you're doing with Caffeine and Career is just a neat way to add to all that. So let's flip the switch a bit.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, people are giving you advice, and you're taking that. But seeing what you've done with your post and everything, let's talk about what you do bring to the table, because obviously, one of
Sure.
the reasons why you're here. What is one of your marketing superpowers that you could call out? What do you bring to the table that employers should be going, yeah, Stephanie, I can bring her for that.
Yeah. So I kind of put it in a sentence where I would say I make messy things make sense. So that could be Tangled GTM plan. How many dashboards are there? There's a team that's burnt out. We need somebody to mentor or manage the inside sales team. I've done that a million times. Really bringing structure, clarity, and forward motion to some of these things. I feel like I'm part strategist, I'm part operations nerd. I like to be the one to build the workflows, but also what's the strategy that goes behind that? Really helping marketing, sales, product speak that same language and kind of be that conduit to kind of get us all talking the same way. And then I tell a story that lands. That's kind of the big focus for me.
That's awesome. And this is one of these superpowers that's so incredible to talk through, because you don't put this on your resume, right? You don't say like, I
Totally.
have 20 years of experience cleaning up messes, right? This is something that somebody who would talk to you would get to know about you, but they can't just get it from a resume. So that's why it's so important to see people who are, 10, 15, 20 years into their career as not just a resume, but hey, there's probably this whole other skill set that they can bring to the table because they've had so much experience, where it's not just one person solving one problem, another person solving another problem. You can come in and say, okay, here's how we need to organize this map of things,
Totally.
and here's how we can get it done within this budget with these resources. And a lot of people, they may have a couple skills, but they can't look at sort of the bigger picture and figure out how to streamline things in the way that you can.
And I think
Totally.
also what I've seen you've talked about, I've seen from your posts and background, you do this in a calm fashion, and anybody can jump into a situation and triage, but they might be a little crazy about it. So you're bringing this calm energy, and that's a very a big value add for any team. So let's keep that going. What else? Let's give us another superpower. I'm sure you don't just have one.
Sure. Sure. I would say, I kind of take the unsexy parts of marketing. Like I talked about operations a little bit, the boring stuff, lead routing, attribution, reporting, automation, and really kind of make it something that the teams can use, and that it's kind of this foundation, it's this background, it's this well-oiled machine that folks can focus on, and they don't have to really think about it, right? Like maybe it's a living, breathing lead scoring or something, but I feel like a lot of that stuff is super neglected, and people are like, yeah, it's important, but we're not going to focus on it. So I would say really kind of getting into that nitty gritty and giving folks a foundation is something that I would call a superpower for sure.
Nice.
And I think, if we zoom out a little bit, the bigger picture here is that it's so important in this economy to have a myriad of skills. It's not just I am good at GTM, I'm good at sales, I'm
Right.
good at this. Coming in as a functional marketing leader, as a successful marketing leader, you do need to have a bunch of skills in your arsenal. And unfortunately, right now in the job market, we're seeing, well, we need this specific skill set for this specific vertical.
Yes.
But somebody like you, it doesn't sound like it matters what the vertical is or what the category is. You can come in and say, okay, here's what we need to do on a high level here. No matter, what the topic is, you can figure out how to piece the puzzles together.
Totally. And I think that just really comes from my startup experience. I mean, I cut my teeth in startups, and a lot of it is baptism by fire. So, done everything. IC roles, VP of marketing, senior manager, whatever. One woman show. That one's always a frustrating one. I mean, I could do it, but whew, it's a lot. So yeah, I think that's kind of where that comes from for sure.
I like that. So
Thanks.
let's have you write a book, the Stephanie
Oh,
book.
perfect.
If you
I
could
love
give
it.
a
Yes.
title to your job search book, what would it be?
I would say the LinkedIn games. May the algorithms and the AIs ever be in your favor, right? A little
You
bit
you
Hunger
have to
Games
write that
there.
book.
Okay. Will do.
I,
Um,
I think that's a great title. That makes a lot of sense to me. I know it makes a lot of sense to Doug and probably a lot of people who are watching this right now.
yeah.
It really does feel like just a game that everybody is playing every day. And we all don't really know what all the rules are, right?
Yeah, that's the hard part. I mean, it's not just a numbers game anymore, where I think I was a little naive going into this search back, the end of last year. It's an AI game. So on one hand, we have the ATS filters that are blocking before a human can ever look at anything. It's frustrating, but on the other side, I love AI. I mean, I use ChatGPT and Claude and all of that. Improve my resume, have it roast my resume, prep for interviews, brainstorm campaign ideas. So it's a gatekeeper, but it's also a gateway. So how to play that game, and then kind of, how do we take AI and plop that in for the future career journey, if you will.
I think it's a smart way to approach it, and we can resist it all we want. It's not going to change. And so
Right.
instead of fighting it, it's really knowing how to get in that flow of the river and just kind of go with it, understand what is it that I can use for your own purposes, but also stand out. There's some things that AI just cannot do,
Yeah.
and that's important.
Yeah, and knowing how to read a room and reading people's energy and kind of feeling the palpable energy, and even a Zoom meeting, you can
Yep.
figure it out, right? If something is landing or it's not landing, AI can't do that quite yet. And again,
Totally.
this goes back to my earlier point of like, how do you reflect that on a resume? You can say that you've been successful in these capacities, but people have to kind of read between the lines, or God forbid, have a conversation with you
Right. Yeah.
to figure out that you have this really incredible skill set that goes way past anything AI can deliver right
Yeah, and it's really like what sets people apart is that 5% of the stuff that can't be automated. I can automate, I can talk about strategy, I can do it, but there has to be more than just, if I'm bringing to the table what AI can do, then I'm not bringing enough to the table. So just really being self-aware about that, and, making sure that I'm telling that story and baking that in.
It's a great point. Stephanie, we're coming to the end of the podcast right now. We wanted to thank you for bringing your
Hmm.
story, your incredible superpowers, and really your unfiltered truth to this conversation. You've given our listeners some really great material to think about and a lot of takeaways here. So thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, it's been kind of a release to really talk about it, and thanks for giving me the space to talk about what we're all facing. And I do want to do kind of an open intro. If anybody wants to come to a Caffeine and Careers weekly session, they are more than welcome.
Yeah, and we'll have the link for that in the show notes. So definitely take a look at that. I've enjoyed watching the conversations there. And to everybody who's feel like they're stuck in Stephanie's version of the LinkedIn games, a lot of our version of LinkedIn games, you're not alone. You're not broken. This is not your fault. The
Totally.
system may be a little screwed up, very screwed up. You're not, and
Yeah.
we'd love to have you. Love to have that conversation.
And listen, Doug and I are always on the lookout for great guests just like Stephanie. So if you want to come and share your story on this podcast, the Higher Ground Project, please reach out to either me or Doug. This is your platform too. We want to make sure that great candidates and great people in the job market like Stephanie are getting a wonderful spotlight to talk about talents that may not be reflected in a resume. So big thanks again to Strategic Alliances for helping amplify talent like Stephanie's.
Yeah, and also check out our LinkedIn profiles, myself and David, spotlighting more voices that deserve to be heard, and reach out to us. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.